are you doing? I'm doing fine, thanks.
Okay, and are you streaming today?
Yes, I am streaming.
Okay. I just like streaming. I'm just streaming.
Yeah, I'm waving. I'm waving. You're not waving back. I don't see you waving back.
Yeah, I have to watch my notes from the month to make sure that everything's okay. I don't get the pleasure that, and we probably get a great echo though, but as long as I don't do that, we'll be okay.
Oh, gosh.
All right, serious stuff. And I'm just talking about serious. I mean, this is almost like waving the saber, I guess. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is warned Iran's Islamic regime that life is about to get much worse. And boy, and I look at all the stuff that they're telling us, you're going to do this and do this and do this, and sounds pretty serious, doesn't it?
Yeah, it actually is. I had the pleasure, I guess, or maybe not so much the pleasure, to attend a lecture with some graduate students and graduate professors at UCSD on Monday concerning the Iranian and North Korean nuclear deal. And I think it's a case where these academics, they just don't understand what's really happening on the ground, and they just fall back that this is nothing's going to change. And one of the most disturbing things I think that really kind of took me aback was, of course, aside from the let's blame it's Trump's fault for everything crowd, they were questioning if Trump had the ability to negotiate the Iranian nuclear deal and the North Korean nuclear deal at the same time. I couldn't help but think of how many times we heard from the Obama administration that they could walk and chew gum at the same time. I think this kind of plays the same thing. However, what if in just like, I'm just going to throw this out there, the president's thinking, hey, we're going to, see regime change in Iran really quickly. And North Korea is going to have to wake up and see how this happened, and they're going to be backed into a corner, and they're going to want to deal with this. I don't know, maybe a businessman would think like that. But I think that's exactly what they're...
Sort of like Trump's advertising.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or it's a millennial thought. Hey, little rocket man, pay attention to what's going on here because, we're coming your way.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're coming their way.
Yeah.
Whatever at this lecture, so apparently they had a Q&A there on questions and answers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the entire lecture we sat, they didn't even mention one word about the protests going on a daily basis. And I'm flipping my computer onto live footage of protests going on in Iran. I'm like, have you guys not seen this? And, because mainstream media is not really covering this as much. And I think it's really sad that our academics are not out there teaching our, college students and graduate students, the realities of this, and that, the Trump administration is just doomed to fail. There's no getting around it. I mean, it's doing a disservice. And I think with the millennials, they're going to want to find peaceful solutions to problems instead of, going in and, with endless war like we see in the Middle East. There is going to be regime change in Iran. That's a fact. The Ayatollahs, late 80s, I mean, there's an absolute fact. And the Iranian people are the ones that are moving this movement forward, not the U.S. government, not France, nobody else. They're pushing this movement, and we're slowly starting to help, and they know that President Trump and Secretary Pompeo is on their side, so they're able to continue the protests on a daily basis, and it's remarkable to see what's going on in that country.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I ran across a basis for the U.S. plan and what we are demanding now, and Trump's laying down the line, and what Pompeo told us. There's two, as we go into the break here, Kimberly, real quick. Human rights, including women not forced to wear the hijab, okay?
Yep.
And then we get in support for the Middle East terrorist groups, including Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Wow. I mean, that's a lot. We'll see what. And more with Kimberly Dvorak, all right? Coming back in just a moment. It's SanDiegoSix.com, VKTReport.com, and she's streaming live at Periscope.com. Don't go away. Just, the tear gas
Yeah, I mean, I've asked several of my compadres in the journalism, industry, and talked to different television stations, and asked why this is not an issue, why this is not on the evening news, why are we not talking about this and showing the support of these millennials that are out in the streets day in and day out protesting, non-violently, but getting violent, response from the Iranian clerics and the Ayatollah Khomeini. This is something that's going to go by the way when the Cold War ended and East Germany kind of went out with a whimper, not a bang. It was like it just seemed like it collapsed, and all of a sudden there was reunification, and Germany was Germany again. And I think that this is what you're actually going to see going on inside Iran. They're amping up the daily protests, and they're striking so the truck drivers aren't delivering goods and services to the people. And through the severe economic sanctions and the fact that the Ayatollah has collected and basically confiscated all of the money, or most of the money, that the Iranian people were promised in the Barack Obama, JCPOA deal, which never went to the people that it was actually theirs. It was the Ayatollah that went in and took all of that money, and that money is now being used to fund proxy wars throughout the Middle East so Iran can increase their hegemonic powers throughout the region, which is something that the typical Iranians do not want. They want to they want to be able to get back to their education. They want to go to college. They want to have the power turned on every day. They want to be able to walk the streets at night, go to soccer games. They want to be young people like we have here. And I think that, the threat of this, I believe maybe the mainstream media and the left, the threat is that President Trump can actually get some sort of peace and some sort of regime change without putting boots on the ground. I think that's their greatest fear, because it makes them all look like fools for the last 15 years, and they haven't been able to do anything except for war. And I think that really scares the left. And so they don't want to talk about it, because in their mind, well, that's just the way it is for Iran, and it shouldn't be that way.
And like in your report, and when I was, reading about the Iranians are angry with their regime, which you mentioned a moment ago about hundreds of millions of dollars military operations, terrorists abroad.
Yeah.
And I wonder, it seems like the left is saying, well, wait a minute, the United States, we send millions, abroad too on wars and stuff. But the thing is, we're not supporting terrorist groups,
Well, that's a big difference.
Like,
yeah. I mean, it's...
I don't see how the kids or people on the left can really support that. I mean, my goodness.
Well,
and then also, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, and what it's done, all it's done is created, a much more poverty in that country and disrupted lives. And the young people, they're internet savvy, so they know how to see what's going on around the world. It's a way different, era than when Gorbachev. I remember, reading about the story. I don't think I was quite old enough to see it in person. Maybe I was. But when Gorbachev came to the United States, and they took him to a grocery store, and they saw the food in the grocery store. Oh, this must just be a fake grocery store. Let's go to the next one. And they went to several, and they went, oh my gosh, your people are not starving. And I think that when governments, kind of start believing in their own propaganda, back then they were able to, keep their population under control, kind of like North Korea, but the internet's starting to get into North Korea as well. But these kids in Iran, they are looking, they're seeing how their counterparts are, what they're doing in Europe and what they're doing in America, and they want to rejoin the West. They want to be able to travel, listen to music, and we're hearing none of this on the mainstream media. None of it.
I think it wasn't too many years. I'm going to just take a guess, 15 or 20, when the Iranian youngsters, the college kids and high school kids too, I guess you call it, that age group.
Yeah.
Where they were, listening to the Western music, and they wanted to wear the Western clothes. And you and I talked about it before, you get one little bite of freedom,
Yeah.
just one little taste of it, I guess is a better word.
Yeah.
Taste of freedom,
and the Persian people are not. I mean, in the majority of the Iranians are Persian, and that's a civilization. We're not talking their nation state. I mean, it goes back thousands of years. This is a civilization. These people are educated. They're smart. They have come up with cures for diseases. They're doctors. They're lawyers. I mean, and so they're very intelligent people by nature. And as soon as the Shah fell back in '79, a lot of them came to the United States, and they're all very successful here. So we're not looking at a country where they're not going to know how to fix up the roads and bridges and how to get the government back up and running and how to start an election process where it's inclusive and everyone has a say in what their next government will be like. And I think that this is what Barack Obama's plan was for the Middle East when the Arab Spring kind of came about. They just went and threw down with the wrong side. They sided with the Sunnis, and the Sunnis are the Arabs. And I know that there's a big power play between the two, but the West naturally has more ties to the Persian population. And I think that you're seeing the daily videos coming out, and we've talked about this many times, where you're seeing people from the Revolutionary Guard, the Quds Force, and they're actually turning their camera phones onto what's happening on the scene in the hopes that when the regime falls and there's going to be change, that they won't be executed for being a part of the Islamic regime that's currently in power there.
And they did shut down the internet, right?
Yeah, they did. They linked in also all kinds of different worms and spies inside social media sites so they could track protesters, trying to find out who's organizing this. Secret police go arrest them. These people are most often never heard from again. And Iran has no problem with hanging people, and that's what they tend to do, and they tend to do it in the public square so others can see this. But what the Trump administration is attempting to do, not with boots on the ground, mind you, but they're going to increase the pressure of these economic sanctions, where it's going to cut off any kind of money flowing in and out of that country. It's going to grind that economy to a halt, and these young people that are out in the streets, they're going to see that, okay, now they're vulnerable. There are more of us than there are of them. The mosques are empty. So, it's going to happen. If it's going to be a year or 3 years, we don't know. But, I mean, you talk to people that live there, and they're inclined to believe that it's going to happen within a year. So, and of course that would be a big, feather in President Trump's hat for all along saying he's with the people of Iran, not the government. He's with the people. And he feels badly what's going on with the people. And he's working behind the scenes. They're working behind the scenes to get the internet so they can't cut off the internet, and get them communication apparatus so they can continue to communicate amongst one another. No boots on the ground for that. But those people will be grateful for the United States for helping them do that. And we're not killing their people by doing so.
If you mentioned the year and your column, you say about the Alatoya. Wow.
Ayatollah?
Ayatollah, yeah. Boy, there's an A there, and I don't want to say I. That's not strange. With me. Okay. Anyway, Ayatollah regime is going to end before its 40th anniversary, February 2019, and they want to get this all over before that important date, right?
Yeah.
February 2019.
Yeah, less than a year.
Big celebration there, supposedly.
Yeah, and I think that and the Iranians are pretty, they're known for trying, coming up and overthrowing on anniversaries, kind of like, ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Dates are significant. 9/11 was significant for them. The Iranians as well. They're looking at this date, and they're looking at it as a timeline. And behind the scenes, there are a lot of work going on behind the scenes, a lot of diplomatic work going on that you or I aren't going to be privy to. That is going to go in and help these people take back their country, in essence. And in an effort, we're taking them from an axis of evil country to an ally. And for Saudi Arabia, for Qatar, for UAE, for some of these other Sunni-run organizations and countries over in the Middle East, they don't want to hear that, because they know that the Persians are typically much more allied with the West, and for them that'll threaten their existence. I don't think the young people now, and you don't know who replaces the Ayatollah. I mean, it could go either way, like in Egypt. But I don't think these young people, they're not going to the mosque now. I don't think that they're going to create another Islamic regime. They want to disarm. They don't want nuclear bombs. They just want to get back to living and having some semblance of a future.
Kimberly, in the report that I was reading today, and flashing back, it said Iran was on its knees to the crippling sanctions when it came to the table to negotiate the nuclear deal. If the United States had kept up those sanctions and supported the Iranian people in the 2009 Green Movement against its leaders, this report says it's possible that the Ayatollah wouldn't be around today, terrorizing his people and the world at large. And he goes on real quick here. We now understand why then President Obama had a hands-off attitude during this volatile, potentially revolutionary time in Iran. His single focus and misguided desire to negotiate with Iran at any cost. And they say, example, when he squashed the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration investigation and arrest of Hezbollah agents. That's when we do. And that's when they, listener, as we've mentioned many times, that's when they were smuggling drugs and guns into the United States. Okay?
They still are. They still are. They still are. The Hezbollah
And
is.
he told them, Obama told the DEA to stop the investigation. It's not stopped now, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, it continues. I mean, obviously, Border Patrol and CBP and other federal agencies are monitoring this, but it's well documented. In fact, we just got a report out that, how Hezbollah's money laundering in South America and Central America, and how they're working with the cartels and sharing their, bomb building abilities, their assassination capabilities to the cartels, and they're currently able to cross the border. I mean, they're known for building tunnels. Who do you think's building all these tunnels that are going under our border? A large portion of those are Hezbollah tunnels. So what are they doing when they're coming through those tunnels and coming into this country? It's a report I'm working on now that the growing influence of Hezbollah here in our region of the world is a pressing matter. And we're actually following this, and I'm going to be coming out with a report on this. The facts on this are stunning. And the fact that, this isn't part of the deal. And this is something that Trump has also said. We will not tolerate this. And
In your report, you should mention that if we don't stop it, it may cause an opioid crisis.
oh yeah, I mean, you could do that, or it just they could care less about the drugs. I mean, they would like to have most of America drugged up. It makes it easier for them. The fear is that there'll be some point when the Ayatollah's backed into a corner somewhere, he's going to put the call out to Soleimani, who runs the Revolutionary Guards and the Quds Force, to say, look, we need to get these sleeper cells going, and we need to create terror within the United States on our soil. That's the fear. And when you talk to people in DEA, ATF, that's the fear with all of this. There's no reason that we have to go there, but that's something that's sitting in the background, and it's something hopefully that President Trump is looking at and taking serious note of this, because that's that's national security.
And of course, the other serious thing in the whole plan, and and saying, hey, you got to come clean to the Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, about all your nuclear programs going on, and you got to give them unqualified access to all sites throughout the entire country. I don't know how in the world they've always gotten away with, you give us four weeks notice, and we'll let you know if you can inspect this area or not.
Yeah. And we've discussed this. Yeah, we've discussed this before also. I mean, and they're presumably have opened up operations inside Syria. So if they don't even know where to look to find where this nuclear stuff is taking place, they can't monitor it, and they're not really allowing them. And the JCPOA deal also included that the committee did not have actually the right to go into military bases. So, and of course that's where they hide a lot of their nuclear capability. So it was really kind of dishonest. I mean, they said they're following the letter, and they are following it, but they are. This isn't a wide scope, where they can go in anywhere.
Going into our final break, you mentioned Syria. One of the stipulations in the demand is withdraw all forces under Iranian command in Syria. And boy, there's another serious one. Yeah. Okay, we're going to be back with the one and only Kimberly Dvorak. Spell that name Dvorak. As you search for her, streaming live, periscope.com, and you search for her on Facebook. You got to get that last name right. Dvorak. Dvorak. And you can read her report at thekdreport.com. Be right back. Everybody CRN, just while there with my guest, Kimberly Dvorak, 118 National Security, Border Security Investigator, and looking at, her latest report. And you know what? There's one thing I wanted to get across here. Another one of the demands that we're making says in threatening behavior against neighbors, including Israel, big demand, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, as well as international shipping concerns and cyber attacks. And you know what I really wish that Trump would put on that, Trump and Pompeo, on the final thing there about demands from the United States, Kimberly?
Nope. What do you want?
It would be to stop shouting, death to America. If you say it one more time, you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, those are, the regime's loyalists that are saying that. I mean, you're seeing at these protests across the country in Iran, they're saying death to Khomeini. They're saying, death to the regime. They're saying death to Rouhani, the president there. They're not saying, death to America. They're actually saying the opposite. They're chanting Trump's name, which has just got to, dumbfound the left on this. They can't believe that they're chanting his name. And it's easy for him. He just tweets something out about it, and that's his message, and that's how he's getting it across. And they are seeing this continuing happen. I mean, the president first started doing this in October of last year. So it's not something that he started and did a couple times and hasn't paid attention to. He's continued to do this up until this week as well. We're with the people.
We get to see the pictures of them, burning the flag,
Yeah. Well, that's the regime. That's not the protesters.
Yeah,
They're not,
I'm saying that's what, the mainstream media
Yeah.
wants to throw that out there.
Yeah.
And of course, I guess the right does too.
Well, like I said, I think that, the left is just going to be, dumbfounded here if the president's able to, without putting boots on the ground, kind of manage regime change within the country of Iran and turn them from an adversary into an ally. I think that's their worst nightmare. I think that, President Trump, nobody believed that he could take care of foreign policy issues, and it seems like he's doing a pretty good job with foreign policy right now. And he doesn't have the appetite for war, and neither does the American public anymore. And I think that he's putting pressures where they need to be pressed.
There's one other on my list as we get near the end here, Kimberly. Release all U.S. citizens,
Yeah.
as well as citizens of U.S. partners and allies that have been detained on these false charges.
Yeah.
Now, I thought that Obama had already taken care of paying for the release of the hostages.
Yeah, sadly, I don't think really didn't work out too well for him. Obviously, there's still several prisoners over there, and just seeing what Trump did just recently with North Korea, getting 3 of our guys home. I think that these countries are looking at it, and they're looking at the president being kind of chaotic And in some cases, people are arguing it's, he has no idea what he's doing. I think it's the opposite. I think he knows exactly what he's doing to create chaos.
He didn't even have the credit card to get him out of North Korea, so
No.
that's pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, all out of time, lady. I certainly appreciate it, and
Thank you.
we'll do it again.
Alrighty. Have a good week.